Welcome to this week's episode of Tech on Tap. My name is Adam Herman with DataBank's technical team. Today we're going to be talking about the evolution of content management, what that looks like, the tools that are out there, how it's changed, and what value it can bring to your organization. Let's turn it over and meet today's guests.
I'm Jeff Eveland. I'm with the Databank support team. I've been in the ECM industry for almost 20 years now.
And hi again, I'm Scott Overby. I'm a solution architect at Databank. I go back to 2002, so pushing on 22 years.
Thanks for joining us, Jeff, and thanks again for joining us, Scott. All right, for today's episode, we're going to be rating Cross Strain Brewing Company's Fairy Nectar, which is a hazy Indian IPA. That's one of my favorite kinds of beers. This beer was brought to us by Jeff Eveland. Jeff, why did you bring us this beer here today?
Well, this is definitely one of my favorites as well, Adam. It is a dry hopped IPA, which takes out a lot of the bitterness, and it's just overall fantastic, well-balanced beer.
So this beer is out of the Nebraska area?
Yeah, it's brewed in Papillion, Nebraska. Fantastic small little brewery. They brew quite a few different beers, but this is their flagship.
Ooh, well, thanks for bringing this beer up with me today, Jeff. Let's give her a try. Here's one for you. And one for Scott. So, Jeff, what makes this your favorite beer? Since you've had it before we've been here, it's a little bit of cheating.
Well, it's just the balance of it. I like the hazy IPAs, but I don't like the bitterness on the West Coast IPAs. So this absolutely takes out most of the bitterness, and it's just an easy drinking beer.
All right. Well, with Tech on Tap, each week we're rating a beer on a scale from 1 to 5. So let's give her a try.
Cheers.
I thought that was pretty good.
What do you think, Adam?
Well, I like it. Just like every week, I'm going to have you guys rate the beer. I'll rate it. We'll give it our summary before we get into our tech talk. What do you think, Scott Overby?
Yeah, I'm going to give this one a 3.
3?
Yeah.
It's okay to be wrong, Scott.
Yeah,
It's I have to give it a 5. This is just a fantastic beer for me.
Yeah, this is a really good beer. For anyone that isn't a fan of hazies, but like something more on the pale ale side, it hits pretty strong. So I'm going to have to give this one a 5 today.
Wow. Yeah, I think in terms of, I see now I'm not a big pale ale fan, so this is better than I thought it would be.
I think that's a good compliment.
Yeah, well, I think for our rating of the day, we're going to chalk that up to like a little over a 4 with 3 and 2 5s. So
good maths.
It is.
Yeah.
Today our episode, we're going to be talking about content services, or ECM. A few years ago, it was about a $47 billion a year industry, and in about 3 more years, it's looking to be about $100 billion. So it's still a growing industry, but I want to talk a little bit about where it's come from. So, I've been working with the content management space for a little over a decade, and I've seen a lot of changes. Scott, you've been doing it longer. Jeff, you've been doing it longer too. As you look past the last 10 years or so, what have you seen change in content management overall?
A lot's changed. So I've been with it 20 years, working with ECM. And, when I started, it was simple: scan, store, retrieve. That's all anybody wanted. The financial industry was huge with that. It helped improve their efficiency with looking up loan documents, and then obviously it grew. It grew into a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Scott, how about you? What's the biggest change you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the best way to show this is, I'm thinking back to the very first project I ever worked on, which was coming from microfiche storage into electronic document storage, right? And that's all they wanted to do was transfer out of their film storage into disks, right? And if I look at the last project I'm working on, we're working on a court document generation system with back-end data integrations and signing capabilities as you go through the process, right? And so I think just even within those 2 examples, and this expands on what Jeff's saying, like we're way beyond just storing documents and accessing documents. The documents are a part of what we're doing today, but just a part of.
So would you say it's safe to say that Years ago, it was really one for one, taking what we have physically out there, paper documents, and getting that to a point where we can actually manage that electronically and not do a whole lot more with that.
Yeah, I mean, you started early on. You started to introduce workflow, and then you started to introduce electronic forms as replacement for paper, and growing. So it's been a steady progress, I think, to where we are today. But yeah, that was the starting point back then.
Or even taking those historic documents and taking them through an OCR process years later. That's been a huge step too.
So it's really cool today that we have a solution architect and we've got the support lead here with us today. As you look at that journey that we've had with these customers that just got their documents to scan, store, retrieve, what was the next phase that you see?
For me, it was almost always workflow, right?
Yeah.
And you could maybe make a little offshoot of workflow and to say, can we reduce the paper itself through the use of electronic forms, right? So things we're used to doing in paper, routing and stuff like that, can we convert that to an electronic form to reduce our amount of paper? And then can we start to attack the workflow side of it, right? So that was, when we're talking in evolution terms, that was always the next step. And to some point, that's still true today, right? Is the attack of the process as opposed to the storage itself.
And when you're saying workflow, you mean process automation,
Yes.
routing, for queues. After we got through some of the workflow stuff too, I mean, we've seen that, right? People are expanding their solutions. They put it in one area, they move.
For sure.
Jeff, coming from the support side, what are some of the solutions that you're supporting today? What do they look like now versus when we implemented them together? I was a project manager, you were an engineer 11 years ago now, so.
We've been doing this a long time. Yeah. Some of our solutions, it'd start out with maybe one department where we go in, we'd install an ECM, and one department would be up. That department would say, look at what we built. Other departments would see it, and they would add on, what they're doing to the ECM as well. So, I mean, it grows, which is kind of neat. A lot of times, you and I worked in the county space for a long time, and different counties would hear about what we did, and they would add in their solution as well. It's been pretty cool to see it grow.
Yeah. Well, as we start to see, expansion, we start to see more with, content management overall. We're starting to look even towards the future of what we're doing, right? People have already started to look at process automation and getting into the data, right? So a lot of the solutions we've had over the years have started to be more data focused. Why do you think that is? What got them there from a workflow, from automation, from approvals? What got them into needing the data?
For me, it was the need to move beyond transactions, right? And the recognition that we need to do that. And you can use, again, to use an example, if you look at contract management solutions, they were originally based on a single request of a contract, moving through a workflow and collecting some documents to go around that. But, as we're getting into current day and where things are, we're really looking at that as a case management system and an application, and starting to use the data to drive decisions, to relate things that were previously kind of unrelated, and to really look at the entirety, if you will, of the contract management process instead of just the paper-centric parts of that process. And in order to do that, you have to have access to the data, and you have to have access to data from other systems, and you have to be able to push data to other systems in order to get that. So the solution itself becomes part of a larger ecosystem instead of a one-off in that. So
yeah, I think that's absolutely, and I think it's kind of the next step. The images are in the system, it's indexed. What can we do with it? What can we extract from that? And I think that's absolutely that's the next step. What can we do with this? Well, how can we make, our company or our entity, be better?
Yeah, Jeff, you support a lot of solutions. So we talk about, content management, and we start to look at the other supporting applications around it. Talk to us just a little bit about what are people doing, or what have they done with other solutions to pair it up with their ECM solution to get more?
So that's a pretty big conversation right there. So we integrate now with all kinds of different products. So your ECM can work with hundreds of other solutions, and through APIs or through built-in integrations, you can actually build your solution, and you can actually make it integrate with, your other solutions that you have.
Yeah, so a few of the things I've seen over the years were a lot of content management solutions, or ECM, was built with some customization that was out there. They've standardized it, they've made more native functionality, they've taken away a lot of that technical debt that was needed to manage it, but the solutions still need to be managed, right? Sure. Well, now that we're moving into, a new area, right? A lot of content management is more than an ECM solution, right? Now we're looking at the holistic view of all the data that's out there. We're putting ECM solutions into the cloud. As we start to do stuff like that, it's giving us the ability to use other services with it to make that data that we've already captured even better. What do you see some of the next, moves are for the industries?
I think as you look at today and you look into the future, I've always been a big proponent of this, and there's still an ongoing argument. But to me, implementing sustainable solutions over time, whether, to simplify that into the terminology of low code, no code solutions, right? Configured solutions versus custom developed ones. I think that's a pretty big push right now. And as you look into the future, I think one of the biggest things we'll see is what I'll call a decoupling from a client interface, and starting to just create solutions and parts of those that can be used anywhere, right? And so whether they're in a specific client or in a specific platform, that line gets taken away, right? And we're just using the components of that solution where we need them, right? And so, really kind of a borderless state, if you think of it that way, as opposed to individual clients, that integrate with each other through kind of very strict pathways.
So would you say that, as we see it today, a lot of the native functionality that's been built has been for that core ECM and content management platform? But what if we're in an organization that can't take that native functionality? We're starting to work and we're growing, right? We need more automation. We have the funds, we have the approval to go forward with a solution that's going to be more customized. It's going to have the technical debt. How do you manage that? You got to see it from the support side.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of mentioned earlier the cloud. Moving to the cloud. We've seen it with a few clients. Over the past few years, they move over there, and they're able to better scale their system. They're able to control issues a little bit better. We see fewer issues on the support side for customers that are in the cloud, because you don't have the same environment as a system that's on site.
Well, as we start to talk about the evolution of content management overall, right? We talked a little bit about it no longer being ECM, it's being a bigger picture than that. Would you say it's safe to say for everyone here that we have gone to standardization and simplification of what we had, from native functionality to moving it to the cloud, to take variables away that make the solution easier to be managed and easier to be supported? Is that something we've been seeing?
Yeah, absolutely.
So why do we still have so many support tickets?
No, I mean, it really has drastically reduced the amount of support tickets that we have. And all honesty, it's been fantastic for our team. But I mean, you're still going to have support tickets no matter what you do. But
yeah,
it's helped definitely reduce it.
It has. It's really allowed us to do more, stay more project focused, looking at the next steps. So I think we're going to continue to see the evolution of content management. We're going to start to see layering of new technology on what we have today. And I think it's going to allow our solutions to continue to grow.
Yeah, I think one of the expansions of that, if you look at it, is, we put in solutions 10 years, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. They looked great at the time, and the technology and the platforms they were running on worked well. But as different operating systems and different other programs, right, they're iterating on themselves and they're moving forward. So, I think everybody's learning the lesson that we're running into trouble sometimes, no fault of anyone's, but they're just different systems aren't integrating the way they used to, right? And so the more we can move to a cloud and kind of standardize those things, move away from those potential hurdles, the better we are to focus on actually implementing solutions instead of recovering from issues, if you will.
So you're saying Windows Server 2003 is still not a good operating system?
But at some point, we designed solutions for that, right? And as much as we like to believe they'll keep working over time, that just hasn't always proven to be the case. And
the evolution of software, yeah,
into the
absolutely.
future. Spear was really good at drinking. So
I just can't seem to down it. It's you beat me.
yeah.
Well, I think this was a really good conversation. I enjoyed it today. I know. I think so far this is a great beer. I think Scott, you must have loved it. I can't believe that's gone already.
That's so
but I do appreciate your guys' input today. So, thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Al.
Wrapping up today's episode, we talked a little bit about content management, where it's been, where it's going with ECM, and what the future looks like. We also got to rate a beer that Jeff brought from Nebraska, the Cross Strain Fairy Nectar. Received 2 5s and a 3. But thanks for joining today's episode.